5 o'clock, and we woke up early.
So now what? Hey everybody, Chris with Wallowa Hikes. Welcome back. If you're new here, this is a channel for beginner backpackers. And now we've reached the end of the backpacking season. And unless you live in Patagonia, you're pretty much done backpacking until next spring. So I guess throw all your stuff in the garage and call it good. So. Few things before you're done for the season and you put everything in boxes or however you store it. You want to go through your equipment, all your backpacking gear, see if there's anything that needs to be replaced. Do you need any replacement parts? Do you need any accessories? So go through there, make a little inventory, see what needs to be replaced, see if anything needs to be fixed. And probably a lot of it's going to need to be cleaned. All right, so let's start with your tent. You've used it, obviously, and now you're ready to store it because you're done with it for the season. Take a look at it, set it up, hopefully on a sunny day, a dry day, if you have any of those where you live. And yeah, just set it up in your yard or wherever, even in your house if you need to. You're going to want to, if it's a freestanding tent, pick that sucker up, shake it out, get all of that crud out of there. You can also even use a little vacuum or a big vacuum, I suppose, with the attachment hose to get all of the debris out of there, and that's going to be helpful. And then you're going to probably check to see if there's any holes, any tears, if any of the seams have come apart. You're going to need to make repairs at this time because you're probably not going to remember when you're getting everything out. And even if you notice when you're getting everything out for next season, you really don't want to start with that. So this is a great time to make any repairs. If there's any holes, especially in a lot of these tents on the bottoms, if you're not using a footprint, you can use repair tape for that. When you are using repair tape, it's a good idea to just round the corners of that so they're less likely to come up, and that'll generally last a little longer. And as far as any dirt and debris, sap, you can use just a sponge, a cloth, warm water. If you use any kind of soap or detergent, make sure that it's mild or made specifically for gear, because they do make soaps just for cleaning gear if that's something you're interested in getting. So do a once over on your tent, and once you're done cleaning it, make sure you allow it to dry completely. If you put that tent away while it's still damp, you're going to get mold, mildew. It's going to ruin your tent. So make sure your tent and everything else that you're storing for the season is completely dry. Check the seams, like I said. If you got sticky zippers, things like that, this is the time to give those some attention. You can do seam sealing. I'm not going to go over that right now, but you can look those things up on the internet if you'd like. If you've had any leaks, this is a good time to address those. And yeah, again, once it's all dry, you can store it away. Most people store them in the stuff sacks they came in. If you're in a place with high humidity or pretty wet conditions, it's not a bad idea to store your tent a little more loosely. You could put it in a pillowcase or something like that, just so it's less likely to be damp and get damaged while you're storing it. Moving on to your sleeping bag. Now, your sleeping bag may or may not need to be washed. If there's just light soil on it, you can just spot clean that with a damp rag. Make sure you let that dry completely before you store it. And if you need to completely wash it, you can do that. And recently I made a video on how to do that by hand, and you can check that out right up here. And most importantly, when you store your sleeping bag, especially a down sleeping bag, don't store it in the compression sack that you have for it. Store it really loosely. You can put it in a large laundry bag, or you can buy a bag specifically for storing sleeping bags, like the one here. And that's going to keep the loft, and your bag's going to last a lot longer that way. And if you have any tears or holes in your bag, this is a good time to repair that as well. And once again, repair tape is definitely your friend in this case. As for your backpack, it's probably pretty dirty. So at the end of the season, take that thing outside, turn it upside down, shake it out, get all of that dust and grime and dirt out of there. Make sure to check all the pouches and pockets, definitely the pockets in the hip belt. Take out all of those old wrappers you forgot to take out of there. And you can wipe this guy down with a damp cloth, and any dirty spots, that should get it out of there. Inside, you can even use a small vacuum for that. And this is also a good time to check straps, buckles, see if anything needs to be replaced or repaired on your bag. And when you're done, make sure you hang it up. And if you can't do that, store it laying flat. As far as your sleeping pad, that may or may not need to be cleaned. If you do need to clean it, again, damp rag, mild soap if you need that. I would blow it up first, and that'll get all the crevices. And also, if you've had an ongoing leak that you haven't addressed yet, this is a good time to patch that as well. And if you need to identify where that leak is, blow up your pad, throw it in the bathtub, hold it under, and watch for bubbles. Just make sure it's completely dry before you patch it. Now, if you have a backpacking pillow, that's probably getting a little grimy from all the oils from your hair and face, being out there and not bathing. So this is a good time to clean that as well. And you can just use a sponge and soap. If it's particularly dirty, just hand wash it. Make sure you deflate it first, and definitely don't throw it in a washer, because that's going to probably separate the bladder from the outside and ruin your pillow. And you're going to want to hand dry this. So just air dry it once you're done. And that can take a while if you've got a fabric pillow. And if it's vinyl, not so much. But it's a good time to get that cleaned up and get some of the funk out of it. Now, if you use trekking poles, and they're not one solid piece, they can get some grime in there and some abrasion. So this is a good time to clean the trekking poles. Again, just sponge, warm water, mild soap. You can even take them completely apart, get any of the dirt and grime out of there that might be causing some abrasion. You can even lubricate them, and that's going to help make them last longer. And again, make sure they're completely dry before you store them. Now, water filters, depending on what type you have, these can be cleaned or back flushed. I use a Sawyer personally. This is a good time to back flush that several times. There's ways to clean them, but back flushing is pretty much all I do for mine. Make sure you have a good flow there, and then, run it through, get all the water out of that you can, and, wait for that to dry out some, and then you can store it. I generally will store this in a Ziploc bag if it's wet on the trail, but not so much at home during the off season. So however you want to do that. You want to make sure if you're storing your gear in a garage or something like that and it gets below freezing, don't keep your water filter with the rest of your gear, because once there's water in there and it freezes, it's ruined. and you're not going to be able to tell. So store it inside somewhere where it's not going to get below freezing. This is a good time to check your boots. If they're dirty and grimy, you can spot clean those. If they're dirty and grimy on the inside, pull out the insoles, and you can do the same thing inside. Check the tread. It's nice to get a screwdriver and just pop out all of those rocks and things like that. And just get all the dirt and grime out of there so that they're going to be comfortable for you the next year. Now, as far as your kitchen gear, cups, pans, pots, things like that, you want to clean them all. Sporks, a lot of times we just kind of wipe these down and they stay in our pack through the summer and get pretty gross. So this is a good time to clean all of those. Make sure you dry them thoroughly and then put them away until next year. Now, as far as your stove goes, when we're on the trail, we're usually putting that with our pot and our fuel canister, and everything goes together. So now that you're done for the season, you're going to want to remove that canister from the pot and store that separately. You want to keep that in a cool, dry place. This is a good time if you have a device to fill canisters. That's something to do in the off season. Make sure that your pots are dry and clean, along with all the rest of your utensils and cooking items. As far as the stove itself, they don't need a lot of upkeep, but if you have a piezo igniter switch and that's not working, this is a good time to replace that. I have no idea how to do that. We'll look it up and figure it out. As far as electronics go, if you have a headlamp or other electronics that require batteries, take those batteries out, store them separately. If you leave the batteries in, you're going to probably get some corrosion and possibly ruin your electronics. So batteries out, and then store your electronics however you wish. Then in the springtime, it'll be pretty obvious that you need to go out and get new batteries. And before you put away your first aid kit, this is a great time to pull everything out of that, go through it, see what you need to replace, what you've used, maybe see things that you've never used that you maybe think you don't need to take, and look for expiration dates, especially on medications and things like that, ointments, and this is a good time to replace those things. And speaking of expiration dates, you probably have a lot of granola bars and Norsides, things like that. Check the expiration dates on those things. Freeze-dried meals tend to last a really long time, but good time to check those as well. So go through, check expiration dates, whatever is going to expire before the next time you go backpacking. It's a good time to pull it out, eat it or toss it. And as far as storing your food, however you do that is up to you, but if where you live is prone to rodents, things like that, if you have a bear canister, it's good use of that to store some of that food inside. Now, personally, I'm not really a knife guy, but if you take a knife backpacking, this is a good time. Check your knife, make sure that it's clean. A good time to lubricate it and sharpen it before you put it away for the year. And as far as clothing goes, generally, you're going to wash these according to the manufacturer instructions that are usually on the labels. I recommend with rain gear that you're hanging that along with down jackets. You want to be hanging those as well. And with the rain gear, it may be time to replace the DWR. I'm not going to go over that here, but you'll know if you need to replace that. If when you're wearing it in the rain and it's beating up and rolling off, you're good. If it's wetting out, it's time to replace that. And I've talked a lot about storing in a cool, dry place, keeping everything dry. So if you have any of those silica packets that come when you get things shipped to you or in a lot of the food that you get, hang on to those and put them in the boxes where you're storing your things. And that's going to suck some of the moisture out of the air and should keep your things lasting a lot longer. So if I've forgotten anything as far as gear goes and storage, just leave a comment below and we'll go over it, or somebody's going to comment for sure with some advice. And so take a look down there and you're going to learn something as well. And now, make a list of what you have, what you used, and go through, inventory your stuff. If you're really bored, go through and weigh all your stuff. Make a big list, and then you can geek out on how much your gear weighs when you're packing next year. And it'll give you an idea of some of the things you might want to buy in the off season while you're wishing you were out backpacking. So that's it. Summer's over. Fall has turned into winter. So I guess we're done backpacking until next spring. So, sorry guys. I don't know what else to do. Unless... Stay tuned.